the last few years in particular, we've brought you several stories about the devastating wildfires happening all across the world. Well, right here in central Illinois, a U of I professor is learning from how the smoke from these events can impact people's health. David Molitor from the Geese College of Business, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, so tell me a little bit about your research. We hear about all these fires happening out west, but it may surprise people that it can impact their health here in Illinois.
Yeah, so I think what we set out to do was to understand two things. Number one, how common is wildfire smoke in different parts of the country, including Illinois, and what impacts does it have on people's health?
So what did your research find or conclude? What are some of those effects?
Yeah, well, let me tell you what we did. We basically took data from satellites that measure where the smoke plumes are every day, and we matched that up with data on health outcomes for the population 65 and older. So we know exactly where people live and we know their health outcomes, and we look at what happens when smoke rolls in. And what you see is that in the days before a wildfire smoke plume arrives on an area, health outcomes are trending about normal, and then on the day of the event there's a big uptick in visits to the emergency room and also in deaths. And so what we can do is we can basically count up how many excess deaths, how many excess emergency room visits are there due to smoke.
Why did you want to research this and look into it?
There's important questions about how air quality affects our health. There have been huge improvements in the United States in the past decade and a half. Air quality has become much, much better. And the question is, maybe the air is now so clean that additional changes in pollution maybe don't matter anymore. And so we wanted to understand how impactful are these events for health.
And speaking of that, sometimes you can have a mild smoke event, sometimes more major. What are the differences in how that can impact people's health? Is it the same, different?
Yeah, so that was one of the big focuses of our research, was to understand the health impacts of mild to more severe smoke shocks. The ones that show up on the news tend to be these really massive smoke events, smoke coming from Canada, smoke coming from California. And the first thing that we found was that these smoke plumes are very frequent, especially actually in the Midwest, because we get smoke coming down from Canada, smoke coming out from California. So on average, there's about 40 to 50 days per year in which a smoke plume is covering central Illinois. That's higher than I expected when I went into this. And then what we did is we basically looked at what happens to health when there's a medium shock versus one of these really thick smoke shocks. What was interesting is that both types of shocks are bad for your health, but the most severe smoke shocks are no worse for your health than the medium ones. Probably what's happening is it starts to show up in the news, you become aware of the smoke, and people are taking actions to mitigate those health impacts.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Something I never would have thought of, something thousands of miles away out west impacting us here at home. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.